Oh, hey there. Sorry I wasn't ignoring you. I just, well, frankly, a homesteader's work is never done. Am I right? So, even when I have a little time set aside to work out my vids, still have other chores and stuff that need to get done, and that's just the way it is. Now, I would not have it any other way. But I got to admit, sometimes it gets to be a little bit much. I'm not going to lie to you. There are days when that alarm goes off and all I want to do is roll over and go back to sleep. But I have obligations. Obligations I took on myself. Obligations to my family because, for example, this dairy goat program that we have here it's all about my wife. This is her project, her passion, and this is how I support her, is by getting up early in the morning and feeding for her. Or in this case, she was feeling pretty rough tonight, so you know what, sweetheart, I'm going to go ahead and go milk for you. Besides, it gives me an opportunity to kind of play with my vlog, if you will. They still call it a vlog? Is that still a thing, or is it just social content provider, media, people influencing? I don't know. Anyway, so I want to take a minute, while I have a minute, to kind of, I guess, give you a little peek behind the curtain. Kind of let you know how it was that we came to be homesteaders. Was kind of accidental, actually. I, at one point, when I was growing up, you know, my family, we lived out in a rural area, and we had chickens, mainly for eggs, but, you know, also to clean up the household scraps, and that was really the extent of it. We lived on 5 acres, but it was all, like, built into the side of a hill. I kid you not. To give you an idea how steep this was, my dad literally rolled a bulldozer over on himself on a mountainside in my parents' backyard. But I digress. So I kind of grew up what I called homesteading adjacent. It was, you know, we had the chickens for the eggs, had a peach tree, Dad did a vegetable garden every year, but there really wasn't much more to it than that. And I didn't really understand at the time that would play into my skills and my abilities later on down the road. My wife, a little bit closer in terms of, you know, she was in FFA when she was in high school, grew up with the pigs and the horses and the this and the that, and actually was a vet tech working large animal for years. So she had a little bit more experience with the animals themselves. I kind of had a little bit more experience with the food side of things. Well, fast forward years later, we finally were married. We're living in our first home that we've purchased. And our oldest daughter, her teacher called us in for a meeting and said, you know, I know she's too young to have an official diagnosis, but my son is ADD, and everything that your kid does checks off all of these boxes. I really think you need to have her tested. Well, she was technically 4 at that point in time, and they can't diagnose ADD or ADHD until they're 5. So we started doing some research, and, you know, is there something that we can do to be proactive and get ahead of this? And one of the things that we came across that seemed to keep coming up time and time again was a seeming correlation, maybe not causal, but a correlation between the increases in the artificial colors and preservatives and flavors and all this extra stuff that was never in our food before, and the rise of attention deficit disorder. And if you, at least the graph that I saw, I wasn't going to be digging into how realistic that was per se, but the two charts seem to be married practically. So we conducted a little experiment. We decided that we were going to take our oldest and we were going to cut all of the artificial flavors and colors and sweeteners and all this extra stuff that we possibly could from our diet. At the time, at that time I think we had a couple of chickens, that was it. And there was a pretty substantial change in her ability to focus and to be able to process things and remember things and to be able to actually participate in life like a 4-year-old should. And then we decided the following morning we were going to give her the bowl of cereal that she was asking for, which had all that garbage in it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that cereal grains were halfway down the ingredients list. That's how much garbage was in these things. And I kid you not, by the time lunchtime rolled around, she was bouncing off the walls. And it wasn't just sugar, it was attention. It was the exact same behavior that she'd been exhibiting this entire time. So we backed it off a little bit, and things kind of evened out, and then we let it kind of gradually build up again, and it again was very noticeable. Now, I need to take a minute and explain to you that, I'm sure you've guessed by now, I'm very Gen X. I was raised to be as close to self-sufficient as I possibly could be in terms of my emotions, my view on life, all this stuff. And so I had spent a great deal of my life hearing about, ADD, attention deficit, and let's throw some pills at it. And while I do still believe that even today, attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, all of these similar and related conditions are probably still overdiagnosed, I can tell you personally, firsthand knowledge, they are real. They are very real. And it wasn't until we actually got a chance to sit down with my daughter's doc, the psychologist who's actually going to end up providing us with that official diagnosis. As he's asking my now 5-year-old these questions, I'm sitting here, arms crossed, legs crossed, and I'm just sitting here listening, and everything he says to her, my brain is going, you mean that's not normal? And come to find out, the indication is she probably got the tendency genetically from me, because I also have ADHD. Now, fortunately, I've learned to cope with that. I don't have to take medications for it, although as I approach retirement age, I'm finding that a lot of studies are indicating that people with ADHD and ADD diagnoses have a higher risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. So I've got that to look forward to. But I digress. The point is, we felt that we were also seeing a correlation between the amount of artificial garbage that my kid was ingesting and how her condition was affecting her behavior. So we got her diagnosed, we went through some medication attempts and trials and changes and this and that, we got everything settled out, yada, yada, yada. But in the meantime, my wife says, what we really ought to do is start getting back to basics, start growing our own meat. We live in a rural county. This is in Northern California, very Northern California. Don't hold it against me. So what we had done, she'd kind of had at that point dabbled in dairy goats. She bought 2 and they became a bigger pain in the butt than they were worth, and so she sent them down the road. We got some meat rabbits and fell in love. Not because they're so cute and furry, but because they are delicious and very easy to maintain and to raise, grow out, process, put in the freezer. They're an amazing superfood. They're unfortunately too lean, but that's another story for another time. Well, that was our gateway. A lot of folks, it's chickens with the eggs. This kind of snowballed from the rabbits. Now we live in North Texas. We live on 15 acres. We have a complete dairy farm run completely by goats. Well, not, well, I guess it is run by the goats as well, because whatever they want, Mama gets. About twice a year, we process anywhere from 40 to 50 chickens for the freezer. We've got a mess of laying hens. We've got our vegetable garden is just as we speak. It has been planted, and it's little itty bitty plants like this. So hopefully in a couple of months, I'm going to be making my spaghetti sauce, and you will find the recipe for that posted on here somewhere, sometime. I will let you know when that's going to happen, because it is amazing. A couple of different things about it. We'll discuss that another time. My point is, everybody's journey is different. Everybody's entry point is different. Everybody's reason for doing it is different. So it doesn't matter to me if you are just some bouged out city slicker who just doesn't want to pay $50 a pound for tomatoes anymore, or if you are Jethro Bodine out in the middle of, Podunket Swamp, Louisiana, with fewer teeth than I've got, who has to hunt, who has to raise animals to survive. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you live in an apartment or on 1,000 acres, which, don't even get me started. I wouldn't even, I couldn't. I forget it. My point is, everybody's entry is different. Everybody's reason for doing so is different. Even if you're that Birkenstock wearing hippie that just doesn't want all the garbage in their diet anymore. That's great. That's wonderful. It's fantastic. I applaud you. I salute you. And I encourage you to get out there and study more about what makes you passionate about homesteading. Find out what it is that you can be doing better. Start thinking about perhaps what the next step in this journey needs to look like for you. Figure out what your journey needs to look like. And then if you want, I'd love to hear just a quick testimonial, if you will, testimonial, whatever you want to call it. Tell me what it is that brought you to my page. Tell me what it is that you've been doing in the homesteading realm of activities and what you'd like to do in the future. Let me know how I can encourage you. And probably somebody's going to be coming up with some ideas that are going to make for great videos and content later on down the road. So please, tell me what you need from me. Let me and the rest of this community encourage you to become the best homesteader that you possibly can. Not the best homesteader that I possibly can, not the best homesteader that Susie Homemaker over there possibly can, but the best homesteader that you can. You let me know what that's going to be. Until next time.